Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? I hope you are well. Today, we are going to continue with A Midsummer Night's Dream. So, could you please copy the title, the date, and the learning objective by pausing the video and pressing play when you have copied that down, please? If you're back, that means you've got your 3 things on screen copied down. As you can see, today we are looking at Act 3, Scene 1, and we're still focusing on chaos and confusion. Now it's time for you to complete your do now. You need to answer the questions in full sentences. Remember, your answers should make sense without the question. So, for example, number 1, who does Oberon ask Puck to find? You would need to write something like Oberon asks Puck to find, and then the character's name. Pause the video and complete these 5 do now questions based on what we have read so far, please. Okay, if you're back, that means you've written your answers in full sentences and you are ready to make some corrections. Give it a tick if you got it right, and just cross it out and rewrite the correct answer in purple pen if you got it wrong. So, Oberon asked Puck to find an Athenian youth being pursued by a lady. We know that is, in fact, Demetrius being pursued by Helena. Lysander and Hermia are sleeping apart so Hermia can remain modest. Remember, a woman has to look like she's being well behaved and she's being respected. So that's why they sleep apart. Puck squirts the juice on the wrong man. He squirts it on Lysander instead of Demetrius. When Helena wakes Lysander, he falls in love with her instantly. And Helena reacts to this very badly as she thinks Lysander is fooling her. And she just feels like Demetrius and Lysander are being incredibly cruel to her. Pause the video and make any purple pen corrections that you need to now, please. Okay, so let's read a summary of what we're going to read today. Today we have switched back to the Mechanicals, the group of men who are planning to perform a play for the wedding of Theseus and Hippolyta. So let's have a read of the summary. So Quince and the other men are rehearsing the play, and Bottom is still having some serious concerns about the play. During the play, Pyramus kills himself with a sword, and the lion is very frightening, and they're still worried that these factors are going to terrify the women in the audience. So they decide that an introduction needs to be written to explain that Pyramus is only an actor, and the actor playing the lion must show half of his face during his performance and tell the audience his true identity. By doing this, they hope that the women won't be so scared and that the men will not get in trouble. Puck at this point is kind of hidden and he's eavesdropping on the performance. He's listening to what they're talking about. And as he's very mischievous, he can't resist playing a joke on Bottom. So using his magic, he gives Bottom a donkey's head. He doesn't know what's happened, so he walks singing through the woods and falls upon Titania, who has the love juice in her eyes. She wakes up and she falls immediately in love with Bottom, who has now got a donkey's head. So Oberon is probably very happy about this. She falls instantly in love with him, and as a result of her love, she appoints 4 of her fairy servants to serve the needs of her new lover, Bottom. So there's still a lot of chaos and confusion being created by Puck and Oberon and the love spell. We now have Lysander, who's in love with Helena, and we have Titania, who is in love with Bottom. So things are getting a little bit crazy. So, what I would like you to think about is Puck and Oberon are always invisible or listening from the sidelines. And them being invisible, what does it allow them to do? And what does it allow them to create? Pause the video and complete this sentence starter by writing it down and finishing it off in your exercise books. Now, please. Okay, if you're back, that means you completed this sentence starter. Now, what I would like you to do before we move on is I'd like you to have a little bit of an understanding of the play that the men are performing in the scene. So, could you please go to Show My Homework and click the link that I've attached on Show My Homework to watch a summary of the play. Once you've done that, you can come back to this video and press play. Okay, if you're back, that means you have completed this task and you've watched a summary. So you should understand a little bit about the play and you should understand what this image represents. Now we've got enough knowledge and we are ready to continue reading the text. So, as always, on the left-hand side, we had the original Shakespearean version of A Midsummer Night's Dream. And on the right-hand side in red, we have a modern translation. We always quote from this side, and this side is just to help us understand what we are learning. So let's start reading. So we've jumped forward a little bit. We're kind of at the end of the action now, and Bottom has his head as a donkey's, and he enters to speak to the men, and this is their reaction. Bottom, who is obviously dressed in character, says, "If I were fair, Thisbe, I were only Tyne." So he's playing his character right now. He's saying, "If I were handsome, my lovely Thisbe, I would still want only you." Quince panics, realises that Bottom doesn't look like Bottom anymore, and he's got a donkey's head. And he shouts, "Oh, monstrous, oh, strange, we are haunted, pray masters, fly masters, help." He said, "Help, it's a monster, we're being haunted, run everyone, run." They're in absolute shock. And Quince, Flute, Snug, Snout and Starveling all exuent, which means they exit. Puck, whose name actually in some versions is Robin, says, "I'll follow you, I'll lead you about around, through bog, through bush, through brake, through briar. Sometime a horse I'll be, sometime a hound, a hog, a headless bear, sometimes a fire, and neigh and bark and grunt and roar and burn, like horse, hound, hog, bear, fire, at every turn." And then Puck leaves. What he says here, he says, "I'll follow you, I'll run you around in circles, I'll lead you about around, through bogs and bushes and woods and thorns. Sometimes I'll take the shape of a horse, or a hound, or a pig, or a headless bear. Sometimes I'll turn into fire, and I'll neigh like a horse, bark like a hound, and grunt like a pig, and roar like a bear, and burn like a fire at every turn." Puck is showing how powerful he is here. His magic gives him lots of power and the ability to cause people pain and to also cause people happiness. But he's very mischievous, so more often he likes to cause pain. So now we skip forward a little bit to where Titania opens her eyes after being having the potion used on her, and she sees Bottom. This is her reaction. Titania says, "I pray thee, gentle mortal, sing again. Mine ear is much enamoured of thy note, so is mine eye enthralled to thy shape." She says, "Please sing again, sweet human." Gentle mortal means sweet human. She says, "I love to listen to your voice and I love to look at your body." So the words enamoured and enthralled suggests that she's really enjoying listening to him sing and really enjoying looking at his physical appearance. She continues by saying, "And thy fair virtues force perforce doth move me, on the first view to say, to swear, I love thee." She says, "I know that this is the first time I've ever seen you, our first view to say, but you're so wonderful that I can't help swearing to you that I love you." She says that you are fair's virtues force perforce doth move me. The fact that you are so wonderful and so kind has forced me and moved me to swear that I love thee. Bottom continues by saying, "Methinks, mistress, you should have little reason for that." Bottom is a bit confused. He's like, "I don't think you've got much of a reason to love me." Bearing in mind, Bottom at this point still doesn't know that he has a donkey's head. He hasn't he's in a forest. There's no mirrors. No one's told him. So he's thinks that he looks still like himself. He says, and yet to say the truth, reason and love keep little company together nowadays. He says, but to tell you the truth, reason and love have very little to do with each other these days. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a second. Bottom continues by saying, the more the pity that some honest neighbours will not make them friends. Nay, I can gleek upon occasion. He said, it's too bad some mutual friends of theirs don't introduce them. Haha, no, I'm just kidding. Titania in her love thinks that Bottom is being so smart, and she says, thou art as wise as thou art beautiful. She says that you're as wise, as smart and intelligent as you are beautiful. Now, before we move on, I just want to unpick a really important quote here. This one, reason and love keep little company together nowadays. Now, this is important because Bottom is saying that when people are in love, they don't have reason, which means they don't think clearly. When you have the ability to reason, you have the ability to make good decisions. So, for example, if you had good reason, you would know that it would be appropriate to wear a hot hat, scarf, and gloves when you go out in the snow. If you had good reason, you would know that it's a good thing to return someone's wallet that they have lost on the ground. But when you're in love, he says that people don't think clearly. People don't act with reason. They don't act smart. That's a really strong message for the whole play, especially because the love potion, the juice that has been squeezed onto Titania and Lysander's eyes, makes them fall in love with the first person that they see. And that isn't very reasonable. That isn't very smart. Let's carry on reading. Bottom continues by saying, not so neither, but if I had wit enough to get out of this wood, I have enough to serve mine own turn. Bottom says, no, that's not true. He says, I'm not as wise as I am beautiful. He says, but if I were smart enough to get out of this forest, I'd be wise enough to satisfy myself. Titania says, out of this wood do not desire to go. Thou shalt remain here whether thou wilt or not. I am a spirit of no common rate. Titania says, don't even think about leaving this forest because you're going to stay here whether you want to or not. Titania seemed very powerful here. Maybe because she's queen of the fairies, she feels like she can also control Bottom. That's why she says, I'm no ordinary fairy. She continues to say, the summer still doth tend upon my state, and I do love thee. She says, I rule over the summer, and I love you. So you here, meaning thee. Therefore, go with me. So she says, so come with me. I'll give thee fairies to attend on thee. I'll give you fairies as servants, and they shall fetch thee jewels from the deep, and sing while thou on pressed flowers dost sleep, and I will purge thy mortal grossness so that thou shalt like an airy spirit go. She says, I'll give you fairy servants, and they'll bring you jewels from the depths of the oceans, and they're going to sing to you while you sleep on a bed of flowers. Then she says, I'm going to turn you into a spirit like us so you won't die as humans do. She's so in love with Bottom that she realises instantly that as he is a human, he's going to die. He is not immortal, whereas fairies are, and they live forever. Then she shouts for her servant fairies, Peas Blossom, Cobweb, Moth, and Mustard Seed. She says, come here, this is the man that I love, can you please look after him? Okay, so now what I would like you to do, this is a picture of Bottom, by the way. So this is a film version where he's kind of like half man, half donkey. So it's funny that one of the most beautiful kind of fairy queens has fallen in love with a man that looks a little bit like that. So to analyse this scene, what I would like you to do is fill in the gaps in the sentences using the purple words. So here are our sentences. So in Act 3, Scene 1, Shakespeare creates something as someone falls in something with someone. This is comedic because she is something and something, whilst he is something and something. What is more comedic is the fact that he is something of his transformation. It doesn't seem something that a fairy, something, is in love with him and offering him fairies as something. Here are some of the words. Beautiful, chaos, queen, clumsy, unaware, servants. Titania, shocked, graceful, rude, bottom, and love. So each of these words needs to be used once. As you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 gaps. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 words. So you need to copy out the sentences, and then when there's a gap, you need to look at the purple words and choose the right one, put it in, and then continue that process until you have filled in all the gaps in the sentences on the screen. Pause the video and complete this task now, and then press play in a minute so we can make our corrections. Okay, if you're back, that means you've completed the gaps in the sentences, and now we can make our corrections. So I'm going to grab my purple pen and let's go through these together. In Act 3, Scene 1, Shakespeare creates something as someone falls in love with someone. So he creates chaos, and the title might have given you a hint for that one. I'm just going to cross that out. As Titania falls in love with Bottom. That's what happens in that scene. We know that, we just read that. So Titania, Bottom, and love. This is comedic, which means this is funny because she is beautiful and graceful. She's a fairy queen, so she is those things. Whilst he is the opposite, so rude and clumsy. We know he's rude because we did look at how he was bossy and he was being selfish earlier in the text. What is more comedic is the fact that he is something of his transformation. That would be unaware, and doesn't seem something that a fairy something is in love with him. Well, we know it's a fairy queen. So it must be shocked, doesn't seem shocked. It shows how big-headed he is. We looked at him being big-headed earlier when he said that he would play all of the parts in the play the best. And even now, he's so big-headed that even though he doesn't realise he looks like a donkey, he still isn't that shocked that a fairy queen has fallen in love with him. Is in love with him and offering him fairies as servants. And make sure we put a full stop at the end there. All right, perfect, that's complete. Can you pause the video now and make any purple pen corrections that you need to now, please? Okay, if you're back, that means that you've got this accurately and that you are ready to submit your work. You can pause the video and just have this screen up whilst you submit your work. Once you've submitted your work, you can X off the video and continue with your day's work. I look forward to seeing all of your excellent notes from today, and I will speak to you in tomorrow's video lesson.